In this lesson, we're going to wrap up the first code example. What you see in my Emacs editor is one of the working files. It's called parts.txt, and it's a simple list of the code modules. So, in the last lesson, we looked at predictions.jsp. That's the JSP script that a client first hits. Down below are two so-called POJO classes, prediction.java and predictions.java. The prediction in the singular represents a single prediction, and a prediction has a who property that represents the person making the prediction, and a what property that represents the prediction itself. Predictions.java does the heavy lifting. For example, it builds an array of prediction objects. It converts that array into an XML document and returns that to the JSP script, which in turn returns the XML document to the client. I didn't want to use a real database. That would complicate things too much. So instead, I have a text file called predictions.db that acts as my database. So let's go back and take a quick review look at predictions.jsp from last time. There it is. And the point of interest for us is this object reference in line 1 called preds. That's an instance of the predictions.java class. So what I'm going to do is work my way to that class. To begin, I'm going to look at a single prediction. So what you see is prediction.java, another of the working files. It's one of these very simple Java Bean classes. It implements the serializable interface. That's of no particular interest to us right now. That's an empty interface, doesn't require any special work on my part. The important parts here are line 1, which is the set part of the who property, the person that makes the prediction. And then down here at line 2, you see the set what, which is the what part of the prediction. So in effect, what the service is going to do is populate an array with instances of this class. So let's look at the class that does most of the work, predictions.java, plural, another one of the working files. And this has some complexity to it. Today I'm going to move quickly over part of the complexity, the stuff that has to do with pure data processing, and focus on the parts that are relevant to the generation of the XML. So to that end, let me draw your attention to line 1. So you see something called set servlet context. For now, it's enough to say that the servlet context is how my application talks to the underlying publisher. In this case, let's just call that Tomcat, because I'm using the Tomcat web server. The important method for me is this one called getPredictions. So let me go through this quickly, because the details aren't that important to us. The first thing I do is I make sure that I can talk, in effect, to Tomcat, because Tomcat is going to help me read the data file. So that's what I'm doing here. So if getServletContext is null, there's nothing I can do. I can't read the data. We're basically out of luck. If I can talk to Tomcat, but my predictions array is in effect empty, then I need to populate it, and I'm going to do it with data. Let me do a very short digression to show you the data file. So this is another working file called predictions.db. As you can see, it's a simple text file. So for example, the first line, Cornelius Tillman, is the who. Managed holistic contingency will grow killer action items is the what. So let me return to here. So what I'm checking is to make sure I've read that data file. If so, I'm going to take my list of predictions and turn those into an XML document. So that for us is where the action really starts. And this is the toXML method way down at the bottom of the source code. So what I'm using in this particular case at line 5 is an XML encoder. This is one of the standard Java classes. It's been around forever, and it will take a Java object and serialize it out as an XML document, which is precisely what I need. At the next line, 6, I take the predictions list, I write it out, I close the encoder, And then what I do is stringify, if you like, the document. In other words, I get a text representation of the predictions list, and that's what we're going to see on the screen. So if I can now go back and bring up a command line prompt, I can do my curl thing. I'm going to simplify it this time to curl localhost 8080 slash predictions/predictions.jsp. Voila. What we now have is the XML representation of that underlying list of predictions made from data in a text file using two Java Pojo classes. That's a wrap, then, of the overview of this first example. Some details we've not covered, but we will return to those. What I wanted to do here was to give you the feel for what a simple web service would look like from the code level.